Hi, welcome back. The last time we left off after we installed Calligraphy on our local machines. We never really got the chance to see whether it works or whether it doesn't work. And really the best way to see if the framework is working is to understand how routing works. And this is exactly what we are going to see in the video today. In order to start, so this is again the code on GitHub along with the documentation. We already downloaded the code from GitHub, and this is the documentation for you to consult. The part we're going to be concerned with today is mainly going to be in the routing section of the documentation. We are going to talk about how to do basic routing today, and in the next video we will do some more complex routes. So let's start, and in order to do that, let me make sure that we are in our posters directory. So this is the folder that we created last time and where we installed the framework, and we are going to open the editor at almost the same place where we left off the last time. The last time, if you remember well, what I did is I made sure to change my app root to to the root folder of where Calligraphy is, and this is going to help us really point the framework to this particular directory, and it will help in all the routing that the framework is doing. For us to understand what's going to happen really when I go into the browser and I type localhost / posters, what exactly is going to happen. And in order for us to understand that, we need to go to our web.php file under application routing, and if we go in there, apparently based on the code that comes out of the box, from the moment I type localhost / the name of the folder where Calligraphy is, it should echo hello world to us. Okay, this is exactly what this function is saying, and this is one way of doing and creating a route within Calligraphy. The way to do it is from web.php. This is where most of the definitions of the route is going to be, and the way it works is that it calls a class function called route, which is the class that we saw what we briefly saw last time in the previous video, and then within this class there are 4 different classes defined that are based on the most utilized HTTP methods. Okay, these can be get, post, put, or delete. For any read-only information, so whenever a request is meant to fetch information from your database without making any changes on it, in that case it is a get method. This is the method that is used every time you call any URL from your browser. Okay, it's going to fetch information from the database, it's going to fetch information from the server and return it to you into your browser. This is what a get HTTP method is. The other 3 methods, which you may or not have seen in the past, are post, put, and delete. You probably have seen post because any website or any application that has a transactional form where it's either asking for your username and password or it's asking you to enter some data. This is done through a form in HTML, and usually these forms in HTML they have a method. They use the post HTTP method to make changes to the database. So the post is another example of an HTTP method that is meant to create records on the database side. The third method, which if you are familiar with APIs, you probably might have used them in the past, are put and delete. Put is very similar to post, but unlike post, what it does is it edits or it updates an existing record that is in the database. Now, HTML does not have necessarily, or does not support, not in all its versions, it does not support the put and the delete from its forms. So whenever you're creating an HTML forms, there is no way to have a put and a delete. It's always somehow translated into a post. Okay, so the best way to test the put and a delete form would be to either fake a post into changing the request to a put and a delete, which Calligraphy allows you to do that, or the other way is really to test it through an API, an API application, for example, such as Postman, which we will talk more about when we talk about APIs. This Postman, for example, is an application that could allow you to mimic an HTTP method that is either a put or a delete. All this to say that within this file you can define any one of these routes. And what this file again is doing, it's telling Caligraphy to listen to anything that comes from the browser and to detect whether it's a get, a post, a put, and a delete, and to do something with that request. Now, what does it do with the request? The first parameter that all these functions or all these methods within here are going to take is really the URI that it needs to listen to, if I may call it this way. Okay, so if the URI is just the host, being localhost / posters, for instance, so just the root, then in that case it's going to perform something, and that something that it's going to do or act on is really going to be defined in the second parameter of this function. In this particular case, we are calling a callback function. This is how we do callback functions in PHP, and that callback functions is echoing the hello world text. Okay, so again, every time you are going to do localhost / the root folder of Caligraphy, it is going to echo hello world for you. This second line that is coming out of the box with the framework, it's saying something a little bit different. It's saying that every time you enter your host / view, it is going to return, again, a callback function, but this time it's going to return a view. And we are going to talk more about views once we get further down in the videos. And what this view is taking, it's taking the name of the template that it's going to be rendering. And in this particular case, the template is called index, and it's located under a folder called default within the views folder. So if I go here to the views folder, there must be another folder in there called default, great, and under the default there is an index.pug, and this is exactly what this is doing. It's saying, give me back the view of the template called index that is under the folder default, and obviously it's only looking into the views subfolder. So if I go and test this directly in the browser, let's open up the browser, let's open up a new tab here, and let's say localhost / posters, because this is my root. And now if I do just / here, without the view yet, we do just /, ideally it should echo hello world for us. And this is exactly what it's doing. Let's check what happens when we add the view to it. So ideally we must see some sort of a UI which is defined in the index.pug file. Let's see what that is. And exactly this is what it is. And these pages come out of the box for you to use, or at least for testing purposes. So don't hesitate to use them at will. Okay, we will dig further into pug and into how such templates can be created in the videos that are going to come a little bit further down the road. So now let me go back to the code and let's play around with these. So what we're going to do is modify these, or just simply let's get rid of them. Okay, let's get rid of them. We are mainly going to talk about the get HTTP method, at least in the beginning. Why? Because in the absence of some other forms that we can create, we cannot test the post, and we don't want to talk about APIs just yet, otherwise it's going to probably make the conversation a little harder. So let's just talk about get for the time being, and then we'll see later what we could do to do the posts, the put, and the delete. So let's say if we want to create, for example, we want to listen to home. So when you type localhost / poster / home, and now what we're going to do, we're going to create a callback function that it's going to echo again, but this time we're going to do something different. We're going to say welcome to Caligraphy, okay? And don't forget the semicolon here and the semicolon at the end. And now let's create another route, okay? And let's say this is /home /1, and when it's /home /1, we are going to echo welcome to 1. Okay, I'm just typing anything really, but the whole idea of this is to show you that it can be any definition of any type, any sort of URI that we would want to match. Okay, and for the time being, we are going to define all these as is. In the next video, we're going to learn how to make some more complex types of routings that would include things like variables and things like this. But for the time being, let's just explore the basic routes the way they are. So let's go and test this out and see what this tells us or gives us. So let's do home. Oh, we have a problem. So let's go back here, and the problem tells us closure could not be converted to string. So let's see what that is about. Oops, my bad. Sorry for that. So let's do welcome. We have our welcome to Caligraphy, and if I do /1, it does welcome to 1 exactly like we wanted. So what is really happening in here? It is literally it is matching whatever you type in here. This is a pattern matching for the path, and what it's detecting, it's trying to say that if the user enters something of the sort of /home /1, then in that case return this. If it's only /home, then it returns something else. So this is really how it works, and it keeps cascading. So I can keep adding things like /1 /2 /1, for example, and do /1 /2 /1, and we get this. Now if I do /1 /2, it doesn't do anything. It takes me back to welcome to Caligraphy. So from the moment it does not find the pattern, it is always going to go back to the very first one that is defined. Okay, no matter what that first one is, it is always going to go back to it. Okay, and keep that in mind, because in some cases it might get a little confusing for you because it returns a different result. So the order of these matter, and from the moment a pattern is not found, then it's going to go back and pick up the very pick up the root of it and the very first one. Okay, so the closest match to the /home /1 /2 is home. In that case, it will go back to the closest match that it found. So this is really how routing works, or basic routing works, specifically with the get HTTP method. We are going to learn in the next video how to pass some logic to the controller directly from here, and we'll talk a little bit about controllers. And most importantly, we're also going to show how from this one we could create some more complex routes where we could include variables, and then how we could read these variables out. So stay tuned. This was just an introduction. In this video we tested that Caligraphy works locally on our machine, and we tested some basic routes. We made modification to it. We created our Hello World first application, and in the next video we are going to talk more deeply about some more complex routes. Thank you.